Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. I got the dream team tonight, and do I ever have the dream team tonight? Please be joined by Bo, Football Talk with Bo. Glad to have you back, Bo.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You're very welcome. You've been a great addition to what we're doing here, and we're glad to have you week in and week out. George Eichhorn, known you quite a while.
I think so. Good to see everybody this evening.
And Coach John Bonamego. I'm telling you, I got a pleasant phone call on Friday night, and Coach and I got something in the works, don't we, Coach?
Yes, we do.
We'll divulge that as time goes on. Mel Farr Jr., welcome back to the big show.
What's going on, fellas?
And last but not least, Travis Sherlock Holmes. There he is. Although you got Travis D. Holmes. I was looking at the bacon, and apparently bacon.
I lost the weight and I lost the bacon, apparently. I'm sorry. But, yeah, nice. Thank you for having me.
But when you replace the bacon with a D, that means I have to look a little deep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my real name. I became an adult. I became old and boring.
That's okay. Not divided here. It's all right. Just means I had to make sure that my 20, 40, 60, whatever vision is got a little deeper. All right. Well, anyway, before we get into the topics, okay, I want everybody to know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? That's no problem. Chat room is one way to do it. Participate, and you'll be considered. Also, send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Go and advertise cost efficiently. Call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. And again, she's actually appearing on Three Chicks in a Pod tonight, and then she'll be joining us on baseball afterwards. So I want to let everybody know that I also am working on a book, and those details will be announced later on. Before we go into the crew, well, hello, Samuel K. It's been a while. I worked with Sammy when we did some stuff for WEI, the WEI network with Peter Ween. Glad you're doing well, Samuel, and thanks for being on here. And, if you haven't already, Samuel, please subscribe. You never know, I'll be contacting you to bring on a show and reminisce like old times. But, Sammy, I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun. And you know what? He was actually on the show when we ended up having former Detroit Tiger MVP Mickey Lolage on it. And I think Sammy got a good history lesson here. All right, another guy who's going to be getting some airtime soon. Just want to let everybody get familiar with him. I met Monty Perez over at an FAU football game, and Monty and I have some things that are in the works as well. So it just goes to show you that when you network at games, you never know who you're going to meet up with. And Monty and I are going to be partnering some things. And you never know, guys, you could be seeing Monty on this very broadcast as well. So some fresh voices out here as well. I always look to try to bring on new people, and I'm very delighted that a couple people have shown up, and I'm looking forward to what this next 45 minutes to an hour will bring on. So with that said, let's get her started. Well, I guess they have no choice but to start with this direction. Well, Aaron Rodgers called it a career after Monday night's Achilles injury. Well, I'm going to go right to left. Bo, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the recovery process for an Achilles is long when you are young. As a 40-year-old guy, you have to think that it's probably going to be a wrap from there. I don't know that he necessarily has anything else to prove. And, I mean, at the end of the day, he gets to cash out, just under $19 million per snap, being a Jet.
Yeah, that's good pay if you can get it, Bo. That's for sure. Give me a little of that cabbage, Rodgers. That's okay. All right, George.
I don't pretend to be a doctor or a medical advisor to him, so I'm not going to say he's going to give it up. He's got a strong desire to play, a strong desire to win, and obviously there's a lot of money involved here as far as the Jets go. So no, I'm not going to categorically say he's going to be done. It's very unfortunate what happened to him. Third play, I mean, it's unbelievable. The first opening series, and he's down, he's out. I feel bad for the guy, but it's going to be. I agree, Bo. I mean, it's going to be a long recovery period, and but if anybody could do it, I think he and Brady would have been the two that could pull that off. But we'll see. We'll see if he is up to the challenge.
All right, let me go to the chat room. Okay, first of all, and it's lively now, and I'm glad. Okay, yes, sir. Glad you're doing well, Sammy. Looking forward to connecting. You got my number. We'll talk soon. And Monty Perez, get ready for this guy. Hey, the sports gods have never been kind to us Jets fans. We couldn't even celebrate for one quarter with Rodgers. That's too funny. I don't know if I'm going to get through the rest of this without not laughing all the way, but I'm going to try. But the silver lining is the Jets won't give us many draft picks because it was in the trade clause that Rodgers had to play
65%.
a certain amount of
65%, wasn't it?
5% of the snaps, which nope.
Yeah, you
Good
did not.
You're on a roll. Keep that roll going. All right. On to coach.
Well, two very well articulated viewpoints by Bo and George. You know, both opposite opinions, but I mean, both very well thought out. And you know, honestly, who knows? I think could see either one of them happen. You know, now I was around Aaron his rookie year. I was in Green Bay when we drafted him, and I do know just watching him over the years, it's more than about the money for him. This guy, you know, he loves the game. He's got, you know, a lot of internal factors. You know, if he can come back, and I think he will. I think he'll try. I don't think he's gonna want to go out, you know, this way. You know what I mean? But who knows? You know what I mean? That rehab, it's a bitch. You know, it's hard. So and then you have to. It's really going to be like what his mobility is after the rehab. I think that'll be the telling thing.
Yeah, Coach, I heard that rehab is pretty brutal, isn't it? Achilles injury. Yeah, I have heard. Well, Mel, you ought to know better just as well as anybody. You played the game. So.
I tell you, any rehab is brutal. I really need to have shoulder surgery, but I mean, I don't want to do it again because I don't want to do the rehab.
Well, don't worry. I had two of them. I didn't like it. I'm not even an athlete.
I don't want to do the rehab, so I'm just going to try to hang in there as long as I can. Really, it's going to be up to what is determined or what his motivation is. You know, if he's motivated to come back, like Coach was saying. I mean, that rehab is brutal, and you know, once he gets through that mindset, the rehab mindset, then you know it's going to be about the motivation. I think a lot of it may have to do with how well or how not so well the Jets fare this year. I mean, there's a lot of high expectations this year. You know, we saw the way that defense played yesterday, played lights out. Although they did play, you know, Josh Allen, who does kind of throw caution in the wind. He will throw some picks, man. He'll put that ball out there for grabs. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they get a better team. You know, it's unfortunate. You know, I feel for the coach there because obviously he has a lot riding on that. He had a lot riding on Aaron Rodgers and what he would be able to do for that team, and possibly could have saved his job. Now, you know, we know he has zero confidence in this guy. The only thing that baffles me is why they let Mike White go. I don't understand why they let him go. Why they didn't do the same thing like San Francisco, bring Aaron in, bring the rest of the guys, bring the people that were there last year back, let them battle it out, and just name the kid third string and put him on the taxi squad or something like that. And at least that way you have a viable option at quarterback. I just don't know that the guy that they have there right now, if he can really play the game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Zach Wilson you're talking about.
Zach Wilson, right.
All right, well, you know what, Travis, before you go ahead and comment, you get the lucky one to go out there and read this. Go ahead, Travis, read what's on the screen, and you can comment on that.
Okay. Sorry, I'm still waiting for it to pop up.
Should be on the screen.
Yep. I hope that Rodgers becomes a mentor to Zach Wilson. I don't think Zach Wilson is a franchise quarterback, but Rodgers on the sideline and in the film room could help him develop. The Jets have so much talent; they just needed a quarterback. Hmm. Uh, I don't know if that I agree with that necessarily, because there's been an expectation historically that backup quarterbacks are going to be solid or are going to be good simply because they have this guy in front of them who is going to teach them how to play the game or impugn this knowledge on that person. And let's just being clear about it. Everybody don't have that in them. Everyone who is great at playing the game is not necessarily great at teaching it. And vice versa. A lot of coaches out there may not necessarily be great at coaching the game. Oh, sorry, may not be great at playing the game, but may be incredible at coaching it. They just may have a different mindset, or a different way of delivering it. Like, so I'm not going to necessarily say that having Rodgers on the sideline is going to, help Zach Wilson. It may, but they literally have a quarterback coach who's that's his own. That is his job. That is what he's paid to do. So I don't know that I would necessarily agree with that comment. But in addition to your original question on Rodgers coming back, I mean, that's a hard one, man. I mean, the man doesn't have, a relationship with his family. He doesn't really have a relationship with the woman. He doesn't have a dog, man. Like right now, he's home, and that motivation sounds like it's probably going to be football all day long. Like, so it's quite possible that this man may come back simply because he has nothing else to look forward to at this current moment in time. But yeah, I mean, he took a whole season to, a whole off season to go on, get on ayahuasca, and go to a cave to determine he was going to play this year.
Right.
What does that mean for this upcoming season? I don't know, man. This man's got to go into space or something for, a few months, and he's gonna figure out his, next plan. But that's a hard one.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just conclude this topic by saying there's no way this guy's going out like this. I agree with you, Coach. He's too much of a competitor. He really is. If Aaron Rodgers can play and he's able to play, he will be playing next year. I think he's already been a mentor to Zach Wilson because he's embraced the role up to this point. Okay. And Zach Wilson has said as such. But there's no way that if you have an injury like this that you want to think you only had 4 snaps in the Big Apple and that's it. And I have a feeling the New York fans are going to be very patient for him to come back. I really, really do. So
have you met New York fans?
Have I met them? Oh yeah. Why, do you want to meet them?
No, man, they're not a patient group.
Do you want to get out of there in one piece? I could tell you a story a long time ago that my brother and I and a bunch of people went to the New Jersey Meadowlands and saw the Devils, and they're ready to cross there, and they're not nice. And I'll leave the rest of the story for off camera, okay? Because this answer would take up the entire show. All I can tell you is, Rosie Greer couldn't protect you with some of the nature of everything that would go on there. And if anybody knows anything about Rosie Greer, Google them up. Everybody Googles everything anyway, but they're not nice. And I'll leave it at that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not characterizing them all. Only about New York fans, to be fair, is they know their sports and they pile in and they pay a lot of money to attend sports, and they have every right to get their money's worth because they pay a lot to do it. Right. And again, they come in high numbers. So, I'm not criticizing that fan base, but just, every area is different in the way that they have a different sports sound, and they're just a bit more animated and vocal than most. And I'm trying to be very diplomatic about this.
Scott, the crazy thing about his injury, and if you looked at it, the time that he got hurried, when he's looking out to the right side, the offensive tackle did a chop block to get the guy's hands down, so the ball was supposed to come out quick. Well, he didn't get the ball out quick, and then he got hurt. He ended up running around a little bit and ended up throwing the ball away. This time he looks to the left tackle chops block, did a chop block, get the defensive lineman's hands down, and he held on to the ball again. And I'm not saying that that blocking scheme was the reason why he ended up getting hurt, or he had a calf injury earlier in the year that he was dealing with. We know that sometimes with Kevin Durant, he had that calf injury. Next thing you know, he blows out his Achilles. I'm not saying the Achilles would have blown or would not have blown at some point in time, but just if he would have got the ball out, like he was supposed to, just running the play as opposed to doing something else, maybe we'd be talking about something different.
Okay. Well, good points all the way around. I knew I had to lead off with this because this one's definitely going to be
So
a good.
can I float a question to the panel then?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, Bo.
So with Rodgers going down, Zach Wilson obviously not the answer. Do they bring in a vet like a Wentz, a Ryan, something like that to try and salvage this year? Because I mean, competent quarterback play would have been the difference for them last year. So do you essentially flush this system or flush this year because like we've seen what Zach Wilson is, or do you go get one of these guys that's cheap to go get? They're available, so you don't have to worry about trying to trade anything away since they don't have a lot of trade capital and they don't have a lot of cap space. So, a guy like Wentz or Ryan or something like that could potentially fit that bill.
You know what? You asked a question. We're going around the panel, and everybody can answer it. Go ahead, Bo. Appreciate you bringing it up. George, we'll start off with you.
Well, yeah, you have to look around. You got to look at the best situation for your football team. You've got to check the backup quarterbacks who are not fitting somewhere else, or the guys that are semi-retired. I mean, there's even the rumor today about Tom Brady. Every time this happens to a big name like this, Brady's name gets mentioned. So if I'm the New York Jets and I've got enough capital to work with, I would definitely look at some of those options that you just said, Bo.
Coach?
I agree. And again, it just depends on what they've seen from Zach and, how they feel about him in that building, how the offense, obviously they game planned and prepared that Rodgers was going to be playing, but there's enough offense on that football team that they can game plan around him. Again, we're expecting Rodgers, but the kid is he's not a bad quarterback. He does have, he does have ability, and, be interesting to see what they do. But if they feel like there's somebody else out there that they can go get and then they can afford, they will. They have to.
Well, don't forget, you also have Nathaniel Hackett as your offensive coordinator as well. So,
Right.
the guy's very capable in that role. So, don't forget that. Before I turn over to Mel, though, I'm not saying it's the right answer. The name I've heard out there who wants to go there now, whether he gets in there is Colin Kaepernick. He wants to go there, and I don't know if
he can go anywhere. Right? He don't have a job. He doesn't have a job anywhere.
Yeah, he's been out of the league so long. I think the window is past at this point.
Well, I just heard the name. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying I have to mention everything that crosses the wire services here. And I just heard the name. Anybody can interpret that any way they want. I'm not giving an opinion on it. I'm going to let Mel go ahead.
Yeah, I would leave no stone unturned trying to find somebody to bring in there. I know what Zach Wilson is. We kind of know what Tim Boyle is. Being up there in Detroit, we know what he is. I got to find a quarterback. If I'm the head coach, I'm in there with the GM. I'm standing on top of his desk. We got to find somebody that can take this team to where we think it can go. The defense is going to do their part. Offense has to do their part. They're going to have to score some points. And maybe somewhere on a practice roster, or maybe somebody that came into camp, one of these camps. There's been some of these guys that played in the spring league that showed that they can play the position and just need an opportunity, because that's all it takes is an opportunity. Try to find one of these guys and just give them an opportunity and see what happens, because we know what Zach Wilson is. He's a turnover machine. He's going to turn the ball over. He doesn't have the confidence right now, and his coach has zero confidence in him, and that's not going to help his confidence at all. Obviously confidence, you build confidence from doing things over and over and over again.
Right.
If I'm Robert Saleh, I can't take that chance, because I know my job is on the line this year. Ownership's not going to give me a mulligan because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. They're not going to do that. We're paid to do a job. We're paid to coach these guys up. Yeah. Hey, I get it, coach. This guy was a second overall pick. I thought that was high, and I think it was, based on his combine. I think, he was drafted extremely high, but, he was a first-round draft pick. So there is some talent there. Can Nathaniel Hackett work with him? I don't know, but he certainly needs to. He needs to earn his paycheck. Somebody needs to earn their paycheck because that defense, they're lights out. I mean, and they have a championship defense. They just need to get somebody serviceable on the offensive side of the ball so they don't load up the box with 8 and 9 man fronts stopping the run. Get somebody that can, get the ball out, distribute the ball out to the wide receivers. Other than this stuff, the sideline stuff he was doing, throwing little bubble screens, and that's not going to work. You got to stretch the field. You just can't stretch it horizontally. You got to be able to stretch that field vertically as well, and you got to be able to make the throw. So they need to figure out what he does well and build off of that. I'm like I said, I'm leaving no stone unturned. I'm trying to find me a quarterback. Matt Ryan, in the right type of system. He's a good quarterback. I just don't think he fit up there in that Indianapolis system. But Matt Ryan, I think he's still got some tread on the tire.
Yeah. Well, all right. What do you think, Travis?
I appreciate you all, being very diplomatic and trying to make this sound like help might be potentially on the way. But in reality, come on, man. I mean, I'm looking at this list and I'm just like shaking my head in shame for Jets fans to have to even have these conversations. Hey, I'm a Jaguar fan. To be clear, I know bad football when I see bad football. I know bad quarterback play. Like we have Trevor Lawrence. We have, the prince that was promised now, but we have had a lot of experience with some bad quarterback play. And this list of quarterbacks is a list of, help ain't on the way. I'm sorry. Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Colt McCoy, Joe, 38-year-old Joe Flacco, Nick Foles, etc. I mean, they got odds out right now at Bovada talking about Tim Tebow for one over 100. I'm sorry. Come on, man. This is rough. Like.
So the one thing you can say is this defense is absolutely lights out. So you might be able to Trent Dilfer your way to a ring.
Oh, no. Let me be clear. Like, absolutely. This defense, even last year, was a lights out defense if you find the right game manager. But half of these guys, Matt Ryan showed he can't even be that last year. Now,
here's the thing, though. Don't forget, they did show this. They have a freaking running game. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
They have 2 freaks in the backfield that they can play in Dalvin Cook. And I'm sorry, Breece Hall is recovered. He's recovered, right?
Yes,
He showed you that in that game. That guy is electric, man.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, Bo said it's like they Trent Dilfer their way to a Super Bowl. Yeah. If they get a guy that just makes good decisions and doesn't throw the ball to the other team, right, then they have a freaking chance with that defense.
I won't disagree with you, but I feel like that's the phrase you can, for the most part, say with any of the bottom, half of the NFL teams. That's literally that statement. You can put that in anyone.
The defense is good. The defense
you have to have
really
elite defense for that.
I mean, fair. You have to have a really good defense. That's fair. So, but in my head, my mind immediately went to, all right, they're going to be scouring all the different practice squads. They're going to be figuring out, all right, who's that person out there, to Mel's earlier point. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, as a Jags fan, I immediately thought about Nathan Rourke. Anyone who doesn't know Nathan Rourke he's the former, CFL Canadian football MVP from last season, who ended up signing in Jacksonville as their third quarterback. And now he's on their practice squad.
Ohio University.
Yeah. And he's on the Jaguars practice squad. So my mind immediately went there. All right, former MVP showed out in the preseason and ended up on a practice squad. If I'm the Jets, I'm looking at something like that. Maybe not him specifically, but like someone who's shown the capacity to be a really good professional and also has shown something in the preseason. And you can bring those guys in and see if you can develop them for a few weeks on that, on your active roster, see if they can learn that playbook on the fly. And you may get a, Baker Mayfield situation in LA, where he can piecemeal this thing together while you hide him behind that running game and defense. I can see that. But those veterans, oof.
Yeah, the thing is, you're not looking for a guy for 4 to 6 weeks until he comes back. That's the problem. You're looking for a guy for 16 games for the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to ask, but you got to do it. They got to figure it out. I mean, that's why they get paid the big bucks.
I'll tell you one thing: the Lions look good in signing Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the
I
one thing
know
I'm going
not
to
Teddy
with you,
Bridgewater
Mel.
wasn't going to get him over the hump either.
No,
Yeah,
definitely.
but they
what I
signed
am
him
gonna
before they
do,
needed
though,
him. That's good.
Well, that's
what
what
I'm
I
going to
meant.
do, what I'm going to do with this topic is this. I like it so much. It will actually be one next Tuesday night about who the Jets actually sign. How does that sound?
Yeah.
I like it, Bo. I really do. So I think just remember to send me a text or whatever that this will be one of the ones that we incorporate into next week's show. We could spend a lot of time. I don't mind doing it. I just think right now we're looking for a period, not a question mark, as well. No, but it's a great question, Bo. I'm glad you brought it up. And to me, right now, everything is in play, including the one that Travis brought up about the Canadian Football League guy. Oh my goodness, this would be a golden opportunity for him. But we'll see. Remember, once upon a time, though, okay, Coach, I remember you said about Dilfer, Rex Ryan ended up getting what, Mark Sanchez to the AFC Championship game. Once upon a time, that did happen. So great defense could
They got
lead
there
you
a
at
few
least
times.
to a couple wins.
They got there
So,
2 or 3 times, didn't they?
Yeah,
yeah,
twice.
yeah. Yeah, so you have a good, but that's another thing too. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We're going to make it a topic next week. We have a lot to get to, but Bo, I'm glad you brought it up. It certainly was one of those stimulus response questions that got us all going, and that's what we like to do anyway. So with that said, we'll move on to NBC play-by-play announcer Mike Tirico says the Detroit Lions 21-20 win over the Kansas City Chiefs deserved an asterisk without Travis Kelce doing an injury and defensive tackle Chris Jones holding out. Let me tell you, George and I, a lot of us Michiganders know, Mike Tirico lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan. How can he be so darn stupid to talk about the Lions getting an asterisk when you live in the home state? I don't know a lot of Spanish, okay, but I did once date a Puerto Rican who mentioned the word El Stupido, and it's one of the few words I ever learned, especially when it was applied to me, although not that she was a real barn burner either, but we're not getting into that debate here about a previous long gone, as Ernie Harwell would say, but an asterisk from a guy who lives in the area, Mike Tirico, as they say on ESPN, just shut up. All right. Well, with that said, I think I've had to say what I had to say. So Bo knows how to follow me, don't you, Bo?
That's right. Yeah, so I mean, you got to play who's in front of you, right? Like you're going to play every team when you play them generally has a guy or two that's out. Now, if those guys were in there, do I think KC wins? The odds are high, right? Because Goff had time. There wasn't the pass rush that Jones brings to the table. And when you have a guy like Tony who was dropping the ball all night, he would have been hitting his security blanket and Kelce. So I think KC probably could have won that game. I had KC until I saw Kelce wasn't going to play, and then I had swapped my pick over to the Lions at that point. But I mean, even without those guys in, it was a close game. So, tough to say, right? Because had those guys been on, game plan would have been different. You never know until you actually play that game. But in Asterisk, I don't think so. You got to play the guy that's in front of you.
All right, George, you get the honors of reading this next one.
Hi, Jeremy. Mike Tirico is a same old Lions fan. Take it with a grain of salt. Well, I don't think his choice of words was good, but I'll tell you what, during that broadcast, Mike did a fantastic job of explaining the situation in Detroit. I give him credit for the homework he did, and Collinsworth to a lesser degree. You could tell that Mike was here. He spent a lot of time at Lions camp, talking to Campbell, talking to some of the players. Brad Holmes, he mentioned. So from a standpoint of objectivity, I think Tirico was over the top. He really was. Now, I know there was a lot of gaga stuff about Mahomes and all that, and statements were made about Mahomes, oh, well, you haven't seen the real Mahomes, or Collinsworth said something stupid like that. But no, Mike should not have said asterisk, but I do want to give him credit for really studying, as they say, the game film, Coach. He studied well, and he really was prepared for that broadcast, all this being aside from the asterisk comment.
I'm not questioning the guy's broadcast ability. The word asterisk to me is one that I didn't think was necessary, and a lot of people never liked it when Roger Maris got one either. So, but that's beside the point for another conversation. We'll go to to the smoking before we turn over to Coach. All right, first half Crawford was pressed 10 times 7. All right, that's good to know. All right, so all right, Coach, what do you think about the asterisk?
Again, I mean, you play who's in front of you. You know what I mean? But you know, look, it's a business, right? And the network's got to make money, so somebody's got to be the bad cop every once in a while. You know, they can switch it up, and you know, I like Tirico. I think he's great. You know, I really do. But doesn't mean I agree with him all the time. So
right. Okay, Mel.
Yeah, I mean, you know, these guys are talking on the fly. He's thinking on the fly. He's very sharp, obviously, and you know that was something that he must have had. You know, that he just holding on to it, waiting to use it because he knew those guys weren't going to play. But like Coach says, you play who's in front of you. Is this going to be an asterisk season because Aaron Rodgers isn't there? No, it's not going to be an asterisk for Robert Saleh. He's got to get it done, and these players, they're going to want to get it done. You know, pro careers are short. Their windows are small. There may not be another opportunity for them to be as good as they are right now next year. You can say, oh, well, you know, we'll just pack it in and we'll just try it again next year. No, you can't pack it in. You got 16 weeks to go. Not only that, I mean, you put a whole lot of work into this season. So, you know, for them to say that, I mean, you know, injuries happen. That's just a part of the game. You know, is it an asterisk because Jameson Williams wasn't playing because he decided to do some online gambling or whatever? I mean, you can go on and on and on. You can say that with every game. An asterisk because San Francisco, they ended up losing the game because they ran out of quarterbacks. You got to play who's in front of you. You got to play the hand that you're dealt. And so I don't look at it as an asterisk. They played well, played very well, came from behind, were very resilient. Defense, they were going to kind of getting taking some body shots there in the first half, but they came back strong in the second half and held their own and gave the offense a chance to win. So, Mike Tirico, he gets paid for commentating. He made a comment. I don't agree with him.
Fair enough. All right. You know what? I'm going to put this one up, and we'll continue to move it along here. So I'll go to Jeremy. So if that's the case, the Lions get an asterisk for all the losses in 21 as the second most injured team. That's food for thought, but and I'll leave it at that. Nobody has to comment on it. But I think it was what's putting out there. All right, Travis. You're the last word on this.
I must not have had my chocolate today because I'm apparently the bad guy all day today. I think we all fully understand exactly what he meant. I think if we're not Detroit fans or we have no dog in the fight or whatever you may call it, I think it's pretty obvious his meaning as far as the actress comment. And I think as fans of the sport and even as fans, if you were a fan of the other team, you would obviously say the same thing. If the Lions played without Goff and played with their backup or something like that, we would absolutely say or intimate in some way that this was a questionable win. The ending would have been different if we had our horses. Like, come on, man. We all do that. We all have these sports conversations, and when we're not on TV or not on YouTube or fill in the blank program, we have these same conversations. This man said basically what you say in a barbershop or you would say at your family's house arguing that, hey, man, that win was not. You obviously didn't beat this team with their horses, man. All right, they're a team who was built on their high-end guys, those guys who are paid the most, and those are two of the top 3 highest paid people on their team. Chris Jones is the Pat Mahomes of that defense. Kelsey is their number 1 target. I mean, sorry, these are just objective facts for their team, and they're missing 2 of the 3, and they barely lose. Come on, man. I mean, I don't think we all have to be, rocket scientists, or we can at least be moderately objective and say we know what he meant. Lions fans don't like it because they've also had their own injuries, and every team has injuries, but this is obviously pretty big losses for a team that barely lost.
All I'll say is an asterisk is a strong word when you talk about everybody liking to hand them out these days. So
well, you think about it, the only way they rematch is in the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. That's
and
true.
That's a big win.
And if they do, it'll be the Lions.
That's a big win for the Lions. Like huge
that's also a fair point. Yeah. I'm just saying, but we have that argument all the time about Tom Brady, the tuck rule game, or fill in the blank when you lose this
Yep.
player and this other player. I mean, come on, man, we have these arguments. Hey, Tarico just said it out. He said the quiet part out loud. We all thought it.
Yeah.
I didn't.
All right. Well, you know what?
Come on.
I've got a nice, pleasant comment from somebody I'm all too familiar with. I've only known my entire life. My brother Lonnie. All right. Detroit number 9 was maybe out. Both
Really?
Astros.
Is he the Chris
Each other
Jones
out.
of the Lions?
I mean,
For real? Is he the Kelsey of the Lions?
I don't know. All I can tell you, my brother liked Matthew Stafford, and who the heck didn't? So I'm glad. Thanks, Lonnie, for chiming in. We appreciate it. Yeah, you guys are welcome to comment on this one if you want. Anybody have any thoughts of Lonnie's comment, Bo?
No.
Okay, George.
Well, no, he, it brings up a good point. And it goes back to what Travis said earlier. I mean, there's many, many instances when you're playing without your top guys, and
Right.
it just goes on and on and on. And sure, I mean, without number 9, I thought for a second he was talking about number 9, Gordie Howe.
Yeah, right.
I
Don't
know
worry,
Lonnie
Moses.
loves hockey.
Well, let me tell you, don't kid yourself. Don't sell him short. When we were talking last week, he went out there, reminded me of a baseball team that I was a catcher on that went 21-0 called the Wildcats. So I'm not ever questioning his memory.
No.
That was a great year, by the way, the year my grandfather died. So, yeah. Anybody else want to add to this?
You guys will be happy to know that Mike Tirico is in my book that I wrote.
Well, that's good to know.
So if I'm not so critical on him, I guess you can figure out why.
I'm not worried about it. All right. Thanks for your comments, Lonnie. Much appreciated. Let's continue with the chat room theme. I have a feeling that 108 Stitches baseball talk is going to wait a little while longer, and we're okay with that too. All right, Jeremy, the reason the defense did better in the second half, Jawan Taylor was tipping the plays. He only lined up back and shook his leg on passing plays. So the Lions quit rushing 6 players and rushed 4 or 5 the whole second half. Dropped everyone in coverage. Okay, good to know we have another coach on here not named Bonamako. Okay. All right, let's see. Lions. There you go. All right, let's keep it rolling here. I love the pays. Lions won without Kelsey on the roster. Yeah, we got that one figured out. Smoking. Okay, you're smoking there. All right, everybody. Anybody else want to comment on this, or we covered it well? All right. Well, I get my old I told you so moment. Coach Bono, this topic is for you. Okay. As I predicted, Colorado 36-14 over Nebraska. Coach Deion Sanders is 2-0. Yes, Coach Prime and his team will host state rival Colorado State this weekend, which I expect to be another blowout. This time it gets worse for the other Rams, not LA, the Colorado State Rams. I'd say we're looking at a 30 to 40 point demolition of an in-state rival, and Coach Prime will be 3-0, okay, with no asterisk, by the way. Had to get that in there to keep the humor rolling with this thing. All right, Paul. Does Coach Prime know 3-0?
Yeah, I forget who his next opponent is, but I believe he will. Honestly, the way their team is playing, I think where he is going to stumble is when he gets into the ranked teams in the Pac-12. That'll be the real telling type of thing. And I think what gets him is the fact that they have no semblance of a run game. Once you get into some of these better defenses, I think he's going to end up with an issue. Now, will they be a bowl eligible team? Sure. Do I believe the national media that somehow they're going to be in the championship game? I think we need to pump the brakes on that a little bit.
Okay.
It's a first year. He's obviously doing some great things there. I do see them winning 6 games to be eligible. Do I see them in that conversation? No, because they have to play Oregon, Oregon State, and USC. And if they make it to the championship, potentially Washington, those are real high flight teams, right? I mean, there are 6 teams in the Pac-12 that are in the top 25, or at least there were. I didn't look after, I didn't look yesterday. So
there's 7 now.
There's 7. Okay, well, that actually makes it worse. So, I mean, he has some real stiff competition coming into this, and I just don't really think that he's going to be – that their team is going to be able to just blow everybody out. It's not realistic.
But he's going to blow out Colorado State this weekend.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
And
As he
Bo,
did Nebraska.
in Scott's defense, Bo, he wasn't asking you about the whole season. He was asking about one more game. And yes, I agree with Scott. It's going to be a blowout. The rest of the season, I'm not here to look into the crystal ball. Sure, it's going to be tough, but I mean, he's done a hell of a job. They're doing a hell of a job offensively, especially. So yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, sure, he's going to go 3-0, and then we'll talk about conference play on a future show.
Yeah,
That's
no
the way I
doubt
look
about it,
at it.
George. Yeah, George, you're 100% right. I mean, listen, if they keep playing well, I'm going to keep bringing them on this show. I really don't, frankly, care.
I mean,
the
week
reality
by
is,
week, Coach Bono will tell you that. One game at a time, right, Coach?
That's exactly right.
yeah.
Anyways, I defer
Well,
to
the
Coach.
reality of the situation with this guy is they couldn't afford to pay him when he signed there, so they had to figure it out. So all of a sudden, they can charge whatever they're going to get for the tickets. He's going to pay for himself 9 million times over anyhow. So when you bring a guy on that you can't afford to pay, and all of a sudden he's paying some big dividends, and he's got Boulder looking like a bunch of boulders that will fall on top of that stadium, as I predicted last week that the Nebraska Cornhuskers were going to get bulldozed in Boulder. Well, all I need today is 36-14. And since Coach Bono wasn't able to make last week's episode, I was hoping for a win. So Coach Bono got a chance to talk about it. And I turn it over to you, Coach Bo.
So what's the question?
What's my question? I'll tell you exactly what my question is.
It should be a blowout. It definitely should be
right.
a blowout. Yeah, I'm very impressed with them. The job they've done. The quarterback is a real deal. I mean, he is playing lights out.
Yeah. Question. So now that I got a novice broadcaster asking me what my question is, okay, and I love it when guys like you develop so nicely, because I know we're not talking fried chicken. We're talking about broadcasting now. This is good stuff. Okay. Did you ever think, though, Coach, really, that Coach Prime would be this good at this level? That's my real question.
I did. I mean, he has his own way of doing things, but he knows what he's doing. He's, man, the guy can recruit. He works at it. He's hired a good staff. I mean, why wouldn't they win? I mean, the only thing that when you look at their team, I think, maybe where they're not, where have some work to do still recruiting is probably in the offense and defensive lines. I don't think they're quite there yet, but man, everything else is man, they're, to watch them execute on offense as well as they are, the speed, the tempo, understanding situational football, managing all of that stuff. You almost think you're looking at a team that's been together, been playing together for a long time. They're just gonna keep getting better. You know what I mean? And that staff is learning too. I mean, they've seen these guys play, but they haven't coached any of these guys in games, right? So they're learning. They're learning more and more about their team and what they have and who can do what as they're playing. This team's they're gonna continue to grow and get better. Believe it. And especially,
that was my question. All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to carry it over to Mel.
So, Bo, I'm sorry. Pac-12 has 8 in the top 25.
Wow.
Washington State and UCLA.
One of them, Colorado.
Wow. Obviously, Colorado's in there now. But
right.
You look at Colorado. Does Colorado State still run the triple option, or they got a regular offense over there now? Because the Colorado, they got to do better stopping and running the football, and that's really going to run into some problems, I think, once they get into playing some of these ranked teams in the Pac-12. They got Colorado State, then they go up to Oregon, then they play USC back at home. I mean, those are going to be tough, and they got Arizona State, Stanford before they come and see those Bruins down there at the Rose Bowl, and then they go. They're going to Oregon State is going to come see them after the Bruins put it on them. They'll probably be softened up for Oregon State after UCLA gets done with them. Then they have Colorado, Washington State. They're ranked. and then they finish off with Utah. So I mean, they're getting to the meat of the schedule here. And one thing, if you look at their team, they have a very difficult time, like Coach was talking about, dominating the line of scrimmage. They're not that big on the line of scrimmage, and I think that's where they're going to run into some problems, particularly with a team like Utah, who they really like to. They're a very physical team. Utah is extremely physical, and their team doesn't seem to be as very physical right now. So obviously that's later on. That's later on, down the road. But they have a great opportunity to be boiled.
I like the comment we have on the screen.
What's that?
That's okay. I like the comment we have on the screen, and this might help you out a little bit too, by Anthony Bianchi. Love the amount of ex-NFL studs coming to support Dion's program. That's going to be attract bigger prospects.
Everybody wants to be around a winner. If Dion was stinking it up, nobody would be out there. Everybody likes to be seen. I seen Michael Irvin on the sideline dancing, and got all these guys out there. Everybody wants to be around a winner. People they gravitate around the winner. Nobody wants to hang around losers. Okay, when they were doing with Carl Durrell, he played a minute in the league. Nobody was hanging around, going out there to Colorado to see Colorado football games when they're only winning one game, but they're a winner now. And plus, he's must-see TV. Dion is must-see TV, and he's one of one. I mean, there's only one of him, and nobody can do it like he does.
Yeah, bingo. I mean, I don't think y'all fully understand the magnitude of this thing. Like, Colorado is one more win away from being an honorary HBCU at this point. Like, we it's getting to that point where everybody and their mama gonna want to be at these games, and that's kind of what it's becoming. So to your original question, Scott, they are. I mean, in my head, there's no question they're going to beat Colorado State. I mean, Colorado State went 3-5 in 2022. They lost against Washington State 50-24, and they had two quarterbacks. Like, you know the rule already. If you have two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. Like, they had two quarterbacks that played in each half of that game, and barely hit 300 yards combined with 44 attempts. Right, and so we already know if Colorado has any issues, against teams, it's going to be those teams that have a strong defensive line, a strong offensive line, those trenches that Coach Bono was talking about earlier. And this isn't that. Like, this isn't that team. This isn't a team that's going to outscore them as far as passing the ball. This isn't a team that can run them out of the building. Hey, man, yeah, they're going to go 3-0, and then probably ranked in the top 10 at that point. Well, who knows?
Okay, onwards we go. All right, this was something Mel wanted to talk about last week. I'm going to bring it up now, Mel, then I'll give you the last two. All right.
I got to jump off, guys.
What's that, Bo?
I got to jump off.
Okay, well, we'll catch you next week. Thanks, Bo. Appreciate you.
See you later, Bo.
All right, well, we'll continue this thing here a little bit. All right. Does the Cowboys signing of Trey Lance signal there could be a QB problem in AD? George?
No, I don't think so. I think Dak played a hell of a game the other day. Obviously, they manhandled the New York Giants. I don't think so. I mean, I think, again, a situation where teams have learned that you got to have a really good experienced number two available in case something happens. Look at this Jets situation, or in case Detroit goes down with Goff, they've got Bridgewater. I don't think so, Scott. I think that some people aren't happy about signing him, but it doesn't bother me. I mean, Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones. He's going to go out with the consent of the coaching staff, of course, and make the moves that he sees are best fit for the team. But no, Dak had a hell of a game. I mean, he's solidly entrenched over there.
Okay, well, go ahead, Travis.
I mean, yeah, I don't think I don't think I've seen anything that would make me disagree with that. Trey Lance is essentially a fourth round insurance policy. I mean, you draft a fourth round pick, a fourth, fifth round, sixth round, whatever you may call it, a draft pick quarterback. Pretty much every draft. If you're a team that doesn't have a good one, so if you have a quarterback who is I don't know, 28 to 30 in that range, you're probably going to make sure you have a solid insurance policy. And I don't see the problem with that. And this is probably the worst week to ask about that because, to George's point, hey,
Yeah.
he had a great game. He had a good game. You were 1-0, and everyone in the world is talking about your team after scoring 40 points. Yeah, that'll do it. I don't see how that may not necessarily have anything to do with Dak, and it could simply be a coin flip on having a quarterback that's your backup that may become more later.
Okay, Coach.
Yeah, I think didn't we talk about this like 2 weeks ago? Same question, pretty much, when they first signed him.
I don't know.
I think so.
We may
But
have.
with Travis, that's I agree with everything Travis said. It's like you're trying to make your team build better, stronger for the future. You know, you got a guy that's available. Uh, you know, you're always looking to improve your team. Bottom line.
No.
You know, Jerry doesn't do anything just for the sake of doing things. I think we all know that. And there's a method to his madness. And I was listening to an interview that he had with, and he was talking about, you know, when he makes a decision, he don't have to talk to the general manager. He doesn't have to talk to the director of player personnel. You know, he just talks to himself and he makes a decision. And I think, you know, he just made a decision. I don't know really what value, other than to use him as some sort of leverage in the upcoming negotiations with Dak Prescott. Other than that, he doesn't really fit what they do. We already, you know, they run the West Coast offense there. Shanahan runs the West Coast offense. He wasn't really a fit in that offense. What's going to make him a fit in this offense? He's not very accurate throwing the football. That's somebody that the Jets should probably, you know, look into. It's not going to cost them a whole lot of draft capital. Dallas gave up a fourth. I'm sure they probably want a little bit more in return than the fourth that they sent over there. But that's somebody that, you know, the Jets should seriously be considering talking to bring in. So, you know, at least have another option with another highly thought of quarterback who was drafted high. A lot of draft compensation was given up for him, and to give, you know, to see if, you know, what you can do to spark this team to, you know, get this team over the hump, because they're built to win a championship. There's no question about it. I think Travis talked about Trent Dilfer. I think one of the things that Trent didn't do, he didn't make big plays, but he didn't turn the ball over as well either. You know, he took care of the football. And if we can get, you know, if they can do 50-50, keep the defense off balance, that's going to be a lot on the play caller, you know, on him making the play calls, maybe do a lot more play action, because they do have an excellent run game with a two-headed monster there. You know, if they can build off of that run game, just get him to make enough throws, maybe they're 55% run, 45% pass. I don't know, but they got to figure out something, put him in situations that he'll do well, that he'll excel in, that he doesn't hurt the team, doesn't turn the ball over. He's just distributing the football, because they're an exciting bunch. They're an exciting team to watch. But no, I don't think it's QB controversy over there. I mean, Dak is solidly the guy there right now, depending on, you know, what they do this year. I mean, I think Dak is playing for a contract, and I think he's also playing for his future there with the Dallas Cowboys.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to mention, while he is under contract next year, he basically counts $60 million against the cap. So they're obviously motivated to get him to try to restructure that.
Yeah, he counts next year. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say about it is the Cowboys got him for pennies on the dollar for an insurance policy. That's all that really has to be said. Pennies on the dollar for a guy who many people look at as a lottery pick. I'll go back to Anthony Bianchi. No reason to be concerned about the Cowboys until the playoffs come around. Well, all right. Have a little ways to go there. Here's a very, I don't know if it's entertaining, but I'll put it up there. We all know that Dak has borrowed the robot suit that Romo used to take out the field. All right, I'm not going to warrant a comment on that. You guys can react any way that you see fit. Reality is the fact that they got him for pennies on the dollar, and you know, fourth round pick, everything to gain, nothing to lose. Let the kid sit for another year or two to hold a clipboard. All right, well, with that said, what team impressed you? We don't have to make this a very long one because I know I want to turn over to Mel. He's got a couple things he wants to talk about. What team impressed each of you during week one? George?
Well, I don't want to sound like a homer, but obviously I have to pick Detroit. I mean, going in there and facing the Super Bowl MVP, the banner unfurling ceremony, and all the hoopla, the Lions performed admirably. They handled the pressure. They handled the everything that was thrown at them. The offensive line stood out as we all expected them to. They came up with the key plays. The rookies looked really good. That interception by Branch. And I'll tell you what, the Lions to me were a top story. There are many others. Okay, I'm not going to go into any others right now, but let you guys pick yours. But I'm going to have to say the Lions over the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football.
Travis?
Hey, I got to go with the Los Angeles Rams over the Seahawks. That was an insane game, and that Rams defense just dominated the Seahawks were obviously, and I think we all would agree that they are obviously the better team between the Seahawks and the Rams. And the Rams, they came with their hard hat and their lunch pail, and they basically showed them every Sunday it can change. Every Sunday you got to be prepared. You can't come in and expect to win. And they dominated those guys. Like Geno Smith didn't have 150 yards passing. Like it was insane. But I know the Seahawks, they did lose, like I believe 2 of their offensive linemen. But even on the offense, Matt Stafford was out there throwing dimes to Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua. Like I'm talking names that you probably don't have starting right now in your fantasy leagues, and they were out there balling. And I'm not a Sean McVay guy historically, and I'm starting to rethink that thought process. Like he might be earning that paycheck seriously, like earning that potential top 5 coach conversation.
Coach?
I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys because they absolutely, nobody thought that they would go into, MetLife Stadium and literally take the Giants to the woodshed the way they did. I mean, they dominated. They beat them in every phase of the game. But the thing that stood out what really was their defense and their ability to get after the quarterback. I mean, Daniel Jones never had a chance. You know what I mean? I mean, they sacked him, they hit him, and you're talking about a guy that's, he's not like an unmobile guy. I just was really impressed with how they played. Just even starting the game, blocked field goal for a touchdown. I mean, it was downhill from there for the Giants.
Mel?
I was impressed with the Lions. Not to be a homer here, but I mean, I felt that they were going to win that game. I predicted that they would win that game, and they made me look good. And they're just building off of what how they finished last year. And I think a lot of teams are going to be in for a surprise when they come to Detroit or when Detroit comes and visits them. They're going to be in for a fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do the remainder of the season. But yeah, I was very impressed with what they did, how they handled that going into Arrowhead, defending Super Bowl champions, and took care of their business and got out of there with a W and went back home. It's very impressive.
All right, you know what? I'm going back to the chat room. Anthony Yaki will give you his feeling. Cleveland looked great, as difficult as it is to say as a Lions fan. Well, let's face reality. Joe Burrow had a tough day at the office for sure. So great stuff.
That defense.
Anthony. Yeah, but still, he said Cleveland. He didn't say a particular individual, and he's talking about Joe Burrow. So with that said, I'm going to actually go with the San Francisco 49ers walking into Pittsburgh and beating up on the Steelers. I don't think I really expected a rout of that nature, but Brock Purdy is back. He really is, and he looked the part, and he's the reason that they moved on from Trey Lance. So there you have it. All right, Mel, go ahead and take over. You got a couple you want to get to?
I just got one, and it's real quick. I know we got some. I know what's that?
Honorable mention actually goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks because Baker Mayfield got a win in Minnesota. So I'm going to give.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm going to give Baker Mayfield and the Bucks honorable mention. All right, Mel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one. I missed most of those games. I actually went to the Falcons game on Sunday. My daughter bought me some tickets, and I went out there That's a whole other story. But
Yeah, you got to see a win. All right.
Huh?
You got to see a win. All right.
Yeah. Got to see a win against a very poor football team. But just to have one, and it's real. We kind of talked about it earlier. I mean, George, are the Lions for real? I mean, we all saw them with our own eyes, and they're obviously have been the darling over the off season. Everybody's kind of predicted them to win the NFC North. Do you think that this will be the year that they'll finally win a playoff game and maybe multiple playoff games?
I think, Mel, that they have the potential to do just that. They're wearing the personality of their head coach. I mean, Dan Campbell is so down to earth. He's so emotional. He's so into his players and coaching them up, surrounded himself with some outstanding coaches that have played in the NFL. It's like, well, you don't want to predict anything bad to happen, and you certainly don't want it to happen, as long-suffering Lions fans know. So, yeah, Mel, I mean, I got to say it's for real. Let's see what happens. I mean, let's play it out. Let's have some fun. The place is going to be sold out. He said it's going to be louder. Campbell said it's going to be louder Sunday against Seattle than what you heard at Arrowhead and with a dome stadium. Of course, I agree with him. But, I mean, he's really pumping up the fans, too. They're all excited about the fans and the support that they've got. So, good balance, offense, defensively, Mel. I think they are for real.
Travis?
Sure. Well, I'm not the guy that's going to give you the raving.
Forcing you to say it.
No. I'm not the guy that's going to give you the raving tape, because I'm trying to have nuance to it. Like, and I had this argument with Jeremy. Goodness, after the game, whatever day it was, and I am concerned about that. That other wide receiver after you get past Amon St. Brown. Because when the Chiefs doubled him, you have Marvin Jones out there dropping everything that's thrown in his general direction.
He had a bad game.
Yeah, he had a rough game, but that was a concern of mine before the game when I told that to him. Like I didn't like him as our number 3. I have questions about him being your number 2. So while they're missing, J-Mo to a suspension, that's a concern for sure. But I still do see this as this Lions team, just like their coach, scratching and clawing and being in a lot of games, and they are going to be able to be, that 9-win, 10-win team. I can absolutely see that. And then once you get into the playoffs, it's all, it comes down to attrition. Hey, who's injured, who's not, what's the right matchup? Yeah, maybe you might get lucky enough to, get that playoff victory. Maybe not. But again, that is my biggest concern, is that third receiver spot. And are they truly going to be able to get off once you get it to those teams that can truly play you in some man-on-man coverage to their best receiver? And that opinion wasn't moved by this game.
Coach?
I like them. I do. I think they win the division. And then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But I like the youth of the team. I like their talent. I like the depth. And I like Matt Campbell. They're due.
Overdue.
Yeah.
Scott, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, actually, I do. Jared Goff is now 2-0 against Patrick Mahomes in primetime games.
Yeah.
Jared Goff, to me, is the most underrated quarterback in football. I don't care what anybody says. Jared Goff, it's one thing when they made the trade for Stafford, then you get draft capital, but now you traded a starting quarterback for a starting quarterback. Both sides are happy. That's the definition of a win-win situation. I like what we're seeing, but we'll be able to get a much better gauge if they can win 2 in a row. And then if you think the waiting list was high at Ford Field for a season ticket, it was only going to get higher. And we all know that Arrowhead Stadium, I've been there at least one time many, many years ago. That's a really tough place to play. And I know Coach, you having Coach in there can certainly attest to that as well. So I like Jared Goff, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more. And I'm glad a lot of us on this panel went with the Lions last week, because we felt like to us, they're 2-0 on NBC, dating back to the Packers game and now this. So NBC, 2-0 Lions, not the worst thing on the planet.
If you don't mind, can I ask, do you have the Lions beating the Seahawks that Sunday?
As a matter of fact, I do. Yeah.
I do too.
I
Do
think
you?
the Seahawks are going to. I see the Seahawks are going to be great. Are going to be so. I think they're going to be ready as long as they have one of those offensive linemen back. I don't know the status of that just yet. That's the kicker.
You had the Seahawks winning.
If they have one of those offensive linemen back,
no asterisk.
I'm
yes
being
or no?
honest with you. I literally just picked the Lions to beat the Chiefs due to an injury. I'm not going to then not do the same thing for the Seahawks. If they have one of those two linemen back, I pick the Seahawks.
So
I think they will be ready.
So you think it would have been a different game if Kelsey was out there? And
I said that on the last podcast. I'm gonna be clear with this. No, yes, absolutely, it would have been a different game with Kelsey, even without Jones. But with Jones and Kelsey, yeah, I'm sorry. That's just my opinion.
Let's just go ahead. As we're talking win totals, Jeremy says 11. Figuring the Chiefs would have been a loss.
Almost everybody.
We'll let the whole thing play out.
Locally, almost everybody said that Detroit was going to lose that game. All the Detroit sports writers
really
picked Kansas City. Oh yeah, that's why I was the only one, and I'm trying to be objective. Last week, I was shocked that you guys all picked KC except me. I was.
Wait, what do you mean? I picked Detroit. I picked Detroit last week.
No, I'm just kidding. I picked.
Oh man,
I want to see who was paying attention. Oh, it didn't work. It didn't work very well, but yeah, it was me. I have to fess up, Scott.
Well, you picked KC?
I was the only one that picked the Chiefs.
So now you got to keep doing it so Detroit can continue winning. That's just it's a streak now.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Well,
I will go
whatever. I mean, the Chiefs were heavily favored. The Lions, in my opinion, were simply on health money. That's all. They ended up winning great, but the reality is they're 1-0, and the Chiefs are 0-1. So you can slice it
about to be 0-2.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I know you'd like to think that. Are you going to the game on Sunday?
I wish, man. I can't.
I will be there.
I want to, but I can't.
All right. Well, whatever. We'll talk about it next week. So, meanwhile, great show tonight. We want to thank Football Talk with Bo for being on here as well. I know that he's a very, very busy man with all the shows he appears on, but we're always thankful for his contribution when he comes on. And he's certainly a good friend of mine on Twitter as well. So he's a great guy to have on. So with that said, you can reach him at Football Talk Bo on Twitter. I'll do his intro for him. But meanwhile, we'll whip it around the horn. All right, George, aside from the fact that you and I get to do double duty tonight, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
And if you really want to see Mike Tirico when he was younger, he's in the book, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. There's a link to obtain a copy of the book at the end of my column under Motor City Tribune, which is under South Florida Tribune. And I also can be reached at best way is on Yahoo, gicorn@yahoo.com. I'm on LinkedIn under my name and also on Twitter, X, at SandGSports99. And you can find me on 108 Stitches, Inside the Pigskin with you great guys, Sports Exchange, and Pundits. So glad to be part of your team tonight, guys.
Glad to have you. All right, Travis, go ahead.
Yep, you can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, Facebook, Threads, Twitter, Twix, X, whatever you call it. And yes, you can find my writings on BigCatCountry.com, the SB Nation Jacksonville Jaguars fan site. And you can find me on this podcast every Tuesday, talking NFL, talking college, talking all sorts of football, even Canadian sometimes. And you can also find me on Fridays, the Duval Dive and Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, as you can see here, talking Jaguars always. Thank you guys for having me.
I actually had a Canadian Football League topic in mind, but I can wait on it next week. I would have done it, but we're just loaded on these football shows. We really are with a lot of stuff. So you have to draw the line somewhere. All right, Coach Bono. Other than the fact that I'm going to mention Coach Bono and I are working on a project, right, about special teams. We'll release more details going on. So if you folks are really into special teams, Coach Bono and I are working on that. We'll release more details in the coming weeks. So, all right, with that said, Coach, let them know how else they can get a hold of you.
You can find me here on LinkedIn. We're at your local high school football game on a Friday night.
Attaboy. Oh, we're increasing that list every week. I love it. And last but not least, Mel Farr. Go ahead.
In his backyard fishing.
Yeah, that's.
You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Threads. link, in Instagram at Mel Farr Jr. Follow what we have going on here in Atlanta and also up in Detroit for your young folks at Mel Farr Jr. or excuse me, at melfarr.org.
I want to also send a special shout out to Monty Perez and Samuel K for also being on through LinkedIn. Just shows you that this show, we have it on different platforms so lots of people can get it. But that said, okay, Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Chat room is one way to do it, or send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise, officially call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @Tribune South. Katie Ebling does great work behind the scenes and on broadcast when we need her, which we will after this show because she's going to be on her Nate Sitch's Baseball Talk. Great show. Enjoyed the participation. Enjoyed all the topics. Well, hit us with a pretty good one, and we'll expand upon that one next week when we talk about who the Jets' third quarterback's going to be. So, with that said, on behalf of Football Talk with Bo, George Eichhorn, Travis Holmes, Coach Bono, and Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morgan, Routh Motor City Man-Mouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin, and we will catch you next week. Have a great weekend and enjoy the football.